Yo, what's up guys, it's Blake, and today I am back after not making a video in an absolute break. Oh my gosh, I went to the doctor and they told me I was suffering the most serious case of beat block of all time. It did take me some time to get back into my groove, but now we are back, and today I'm showing you how to cook up a SZA, new school R&B type of beat from scratch, so let's get right into it. Alright yo, so first I'm going to play a snippet of the final beat, and then I'll get right into the breakdown. Alright, so starting off with this beat, I did want to find a little bit of a groove before I started making the sample. So I got this drum break off of Splice, and here's the original drum break. I really kept the drum break the same for the most part, except for each 2 bars I chopped up the little portion that I liked, and then at the end of each 4 bars I added this little drum fill. I just thought the drum fill was going to add a nice transition for the end of each 4 bars. Starting off with the melody, I laid down these keys from a Rhodes piano in Keyscape, and now I know everyone doesn't have Keyscape, but you can really use any Rhodes. There's a lot of good Rhodes pianos and different cheaper plugins, like Purity I know has some really good Rhodes plugins. But so yeah, here's the pattern that I laid down. When I started off making this piano melody, I just laid out the chords first before I started on the top notes, because I wanted the progression to have some stability, so then I could really go crazy with the top notes. And I really developed this progression throughout the entirety of making the beat. So as I laid the drums down, then I started on the chords and some of the top notes, and then I started layering on the bass notes, and I have an electric guitar I put in that I'll go over later. And throughout laying down all the instruments, I was changing the progression of this melody, and basically in its entirety for mostly the top notes, because as you're making your beat, the more you progress with making the beat, the more the beat changes, the more that your original ideas might not make as much sense. So I basically spent like 2 hours on this progression to make it look the way it is, and that's what it takes sometimes when making some crazy samples, is that you just got to take your time with things, because I used to just spend little to no time on a lot of my samples and they wouldn't be as good. And keep in mind, I really don't know anything, I mean not anything, but I don't know too much about music theory. But so how I knew to place the notes where they needed to be was I stayed in a particular scale. So I made a ghost note channel, and I wanted to play in the key of C sharp minor. So as you can see, as I move the scale up and down, all of the notes fit within the scale. And this way you don't really have to guess as much with the notes, so you won't have any notes out of key. And this allowed me to be really flexible to work up and down the scale, because I knew exactly what notes to use. So now onto the bass, I really took the same ideas from the cool little top notes I added in the piano, and I just copied and pasted it for the most part onto the bass channel. Here's the bass progression. I forgot to mention that you really want to mess with your velocities when you're making your melodies. So as you can see, certain notes on this bass is lower than the velocities that are pushed all the way up. And especially do that for your pianos, because look, it's pretty drastic how much I mess with the velocities for these keys. And what that does is just make your progression sound a lot more realistic, as if you were actually playing it, because I didn't play any of this piano. I just clicked in all the notes. And then for my next melodic element, I added this electric guitar sound from a Coupe the Truth one-shot kit. And I also got that bass from the Coupe the Truth one-shot kit, I forgot to mention. And again, I basically used the same idea of playing around the same notes as I did with the piano, because that is the main part of the melody. But since the guitar is a different instrument, I wanted to use it in a different way. So here's the main part of the guitar progression that plays in the beat. I had the notes playing in a faster succession because I wanted it to sound more of like a guitar riff, like someone actually like jamming on the guitar. So that's what I did for these guitar notes. Also for the drums, I did add a kick on the 1-3 and right before the 4 because I wanted to give the kick in the drum break a little more punch because the kick wasn't hitting as hard in certain parts of where I would have wanted it. But for the kick, I usually don't EQ my kicks, but for this one I definitely needed to take some low end out of it because it was more of a bassy kick and I wanted the kick to match the kick that was in the actual drum break, and so I just added this little EQ. And lastly, for some texture, I did add this little chime sound. And now for the mixing for the piano, I just added this EQ to take out the low end for the most part, and then I added this reverb. I did pan some of my sounds left to right. For the bass, I did add this distortion. This distortion is basically just the default setting, but I just pulled the threshold back because I didn't want it to be as like punchy. Then for the chime, because I wanted it to be more of an ambiance type of feel, I added a ton of reverb and I EQ'd it quite intensively just to take out most of the frequencies. So yeah guys, that is about it. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see y'all next time.